who are currently out of work, starting to work on really different and creative games and making a mark around how creative, how smart Australian game developers were. And what we saw is a landscape starting that was supportive of each other, that created some amazing games and started to put Australia on the map as a creative centre.
Over time, states across Australia started offering financial support for studios, with Queensland offering a 15% rebate for developers' salaries and a 10% rebate for New South Wales, Victoria and South Australia. Cult of the Lamb, released last year, was given a big boost by this kind of support. Cult of the Lamb asked the age-old question of what happens when you combine the chilled-out base building of Animal Crossing with satanic cults and ritual sacrifice. And thank God it did, because it was a massive success. Julian Wilton was the game's creative director and co-founder of the studio Massive Monster, which he actually relocated from Sydney to Melbourne to make use of Victoria's state government assistance. The support Massive Monster got as a result of that move helped them polish up an early demo for Cult of the Lamb that eventually led to them landing a publishing deal with Devolver Digital, who, it's fair to say, are widely considered the industry's best independent publisher.
It wasn't much, but it just really took that demo to the next level, and it actually meant that two of the other people working on it could get a bit of money while we're just finishing that off, because they were quite desperate at the time, just because the last game we worked on was quite a big flop. So yeah, we definitely needed it at the time, and yeah, it worked super well. Like, we had a lovely team of Devolver, they did a great job marketing it and getting it out. It resulted in 1 million sales in the first week of launch, which was amazing. And yeah, we continue to kind of support the game to kind of really give it the love it deserves.
Uppercut Games have been leading the charge for the industry's comeback for over a decade. The Canberra-based indie studio was formed by 3 ex-2K Australia developers in 2011, and like most startups at the time, they cut their teeth on mobile games, but eventually made waves with their 2015 exploration-adventure game, Submerged. Flash forward to today, and the studio's ready to expand, to accelerate work on a yet-to-be-announced title that the studio's co-founder Ed Orman says will be their most ambitious game yet.
We have spent the last year and a half, I would say, we've gone from an 8-person team to 35. So that's been really lovely. We've assembled a kind of core team of senior people, but at the same time, it's given us the opportunity to do that process of bringing new people in to the industry.
Australian states do offer some pretty solid support for developers, but you don't need to look very far to find more successful examples overseas. In comparison, the Canadian province of Quebec is the gold standard. They introduced a substantial tax write-off for all labour costs associated with game development back in 1996, and in the decade since, its largest city, Montreal, has become one of the industry's main hubs, with dozens of big studios, thousands of employees, and tons of successful games, from Assassin's Creed to Guardians of the Galaxy. It's a blueprint the Australian government wants to replicate with the recent passing of a new landmark tax law called the Digital Games Tax Offset, or DGTO. Developers are now able to claim back 30% of eligible labour costs, which stacks on top of existing state support, meaning if you're making games in Queensland, you can get 45% of developer wages back, and 40% in other states. The laws will apply retrospectively to the 1st of July 2022, and Australian developers say the impact of the DGTO will be monumental.
The DGTO, the Digital Games Tax Offset, that is the game changer. That is the thing that's going to actually attract investment back to Australia. So that's the big ticket one, federally speaking.
Whilst we're really appreciative of the DGTO, it does bring with it some challenges. And the main challenge it brings with is the access to talent. If we have large studios coming to Australia and setting up, what we need is the talent that can work in those businesses. What we see now is a really difficult and highly frictioned immigration system in Australia. And what we'd like to do is work with the government to figure out how we get rid of that friction and make it easy and inexpensive to bring development talent into Australia to help accelerate the current businesses we have here and act as the mentors and leaders to our junior game developers who are leaving colleges and university.
And for developers like Julian Wilton, the DGTO could usher in a new era for Australia's video game industry after its comeback from the brink of game over.
If there's an incentive for us to work with more Australians and like people in Melbourne, like we're gonna take it as much as we can, and it also allows us to kind of reinvest a lot in the local community, kind of using, like the game was a big success, so now we can actually use some of those funds to kind of reinvest into the industry and kind of work with local talent. So, you know, I think a lot of studios and a lot of investment companies are coming over, they're trying to see what's in the water and they want to be part of it.
Approximately 3:40 a.m., a body encased in ice was dumped in the sea. I've checked the missing persons reports. Nothing outstanding locally.